Okay, we're back with another wonderful episode of The Crucible with Jeff Marshall. My guest today is none other than the Madam Speaker of the House, Joanna McClinton. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's definitely our honor. I'm gonna take a moment and just kind of let the guests, let those who are tuning in today hear a little bit about you. So, and if you don't know anything about this woman, after I read this, look up some more information and you'll find, as I mentioned, a powerhouse in public service, a barrier breaker, a history maker, someone whose leadership has helped reshape politics in Pennsylvania. So let's get into it. Joanna McClinton, the Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, first won the election in 2015 representing communities in West and Southwest Philadelphia, as well as Yeadon and Darby in Delaware County. Since then, she's made history 3 times over, becoming the first woman and first African American to serve as House Democratic Caucus Chair in 2018, the first woman elected House Democratic Leader in 2020, and in 2023, the first woman ever elected Speaker of the Pennsylvania House, the nation's oldest legislature. A proud native of Southwest Philly and a graduate of Grace Temple Christian Academy, Joanna's journey began with a community internship at WDAS, followed by a political science degree from LaSalle University and a law degree from Villanova University School of Law. I won't hold that against you.
Wow. Where's my bag?
Temple Law.
I'm out.
No, Villanova is phenomenal.
I've taught at
obviously.
Temple. Does that count?
That does count.
At the law school.
All right, there we go. All right, then I can't hold anything against you. She served as an assistant public defender for 7 years, eventually becoming assistant chief of the East Zone, and later combined her love for law and policy as chief counsel to State Senator Anthony Hardy Williams, spearheading legislation, organizing expungement fairs, and engaging deeply in community work. Her impact has been recognized widely with honors from City and State Pennsylvania, the Barristers Association of Philadelphia, Politico, and many more. Today we'll go beyond the titles, beyond the accolades, and get into crucible moments, some defining moments or setbacks, and I'm sure some quiet doubts, but all of that is what's up next. This is Joanna McClinton, and this is The Crucible. Hi, how are you?
Doing well today.
Doing well?
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm in a happy place at the moment, and honestly, the stories that we hear when guests come on have been, without inserting any type of hyperbole, they've been phenomenal. And I feel like you get something different from everybody's story, and so I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit about your crucible moment, to be honest. So I'll give you the floor, actually. Tell us a little bit about your crucible moment.
Absolutely. So my crucible moment actually happened before I was ever able to serve my neighbors in public service and in politics. However, it is definitely what I will still describe one of the most defining moments of my life. Mm-hmm. Many of us grow up saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and we don't just face like one barrier. It seems like we have a series of obstacles. Mm-hmm. When you're driving, even now on the turnpike and it's road work because they want 3 lanes. We need 3 lanes on 76. Shout out to the workers. We need them.
Get those 3 lanes done.
It's like, okay, I've got to slow down. Okay, this lane is closed. Okay, they have to get in there. So for me, from 7 years old, I wanted to be a lawyer, like my whole life. I used to watch Madlocks, 80s babies.
Yeah.
You can admit it.
It
might not be out there, but this is an 80s baby too.
It is. I shave and you don't see all the gray, but it's in there.
So I grew up, when my brother would babysit, I could stay up late and watch Madlock, and I was like, I want to be a lawyer. So, I go to college, I have different obstacles. I make it through honors. My political science teacher told me to change my major freshman year, but I graduate the department with honors. Getting to law school, moving along. It's hard as hell, right? It's a mental competitiveness, and it was challenging. And so I worked through law school. I had to, support my family, and I didn't have anybody support me at the moment. Mm-hmm. I get out of law school, I'm studying for the bar, I'm with my friends. I actually studied at Temple.
Okay, all right.
And, for those who don't know, the bar is different from other licensing tests. You don't get a note in the mail. You don't get an email. Like, it's a website where everybody you went to school with is logging on at the same time, it's almost like, oh, breaking news,
Yeah.
before breaking news.
Yeah.
And for me, because it was '06, it was before we got news alerts on the phone, right? Showing my age. So I remember we were shadowing some lawyers in court, and then, people start getting text messages. The results are out, the results are out. So we couldn't even pull the site up on our phones because that's how long ago it was. And we went into an office in the courthouse with one of the women who worked for the court, who, it's all of us who are in our class around this woman's computer. And so she's clicking through the letters because you also don't just see a list. So you're Marshall, it's M, but I'm McClinton, so you got to go to MC.
Yeah.
So she goes through everybody's names are on there. And then she goes to MC and my name wasn't there. And she said, oh, it must be a mistake. There is no mistake with the Pennsylvania bar exam. There is, if your name's not there, the mistake is you made some mistakes taking that test. That's a mistake. So I'm at the courthouse, everybody's happy, and then they look at me and they're like, we're so sorry, Joe. And I just get my things, like I gotta get out of here. And then I see more friends that I study with, and everybody hasn't clicked it. So they don't know yet that, I failed, but all of them passed. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna get back to work? And I remember, the criminal justice courthouse in Philly is still right across or adjacent from the Marriott. So I went over there because I was like, I'm about to fall apart.
Yeah.
And I don't need to fall apart in the courthouse at my new job.
This is true.
That's not good. So I go to the courthouse. I call my mom's landline to her office. She had a phone, but it didn't work down there. So she picks up and I'm just bawling. Mom, she's like, the results came out. You didn't make it? She's like, where are they? Yeah. So I'm like, you go to pabarexam.org. And when I tell you within 90 seconds, my mother said, Joanna, I have the statistics here. 9 other people you graduated with failed as well, and those people took it twice. And I'm like, what? I'm talking about me, man. I respect everybody, I love everybody, dap everybody, but why are you telling me this? She said, because you're not the only person that failed. She said, I want you to go back to your office and sign up, to take the next test. She said, it's already a link active for February. And in Pennsylvania, like many other states, you can't just take it every month. It's twice a year. So if you don't make it, it's tough. And when you're doing it as a new public defender, all that you're dreaming of, going to court representing people, it's a big pause, halt, and a huge stop sign and a red light.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's tough. Oh, man, you're going to love my episode. So, all right, so you're going through, so I had a former college mate of yours on an episode, and she described this feeling of when she had her crucible moment, of the heat that takes over your body, like your nerves are kind of running, and I'm sure in that moment where you felt like you had to escape, that heat was there. Did you still feel that even after your mom tried to tell you, hey, cooler heads need to prevail, go back? How long was that feeling pressing on you?
It was tough. So, I kind of paused around 1 o'clock. So I go back to work, I sign up. I just started the job a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm in an office with other lawyers who are all licensed. One of them, we're so good friends today. Mm-hmm. She was just like, I don't know what to say. Do you want chocolate? Everybody was kind of reacting differently. Yeah. And it was okay, so I just came in with these 26 lawyers. I'm the only one that didn't pass. So I feel this overwhelming sense of disappointment, failure. I'm the first one to become a lawyer in my family. So I feel oh my gosh. So the way the day went, I did sign up for the February test. And it was a Thursday because we had church that night. So I go to church, and I remember we had a leaders meeting. Mm-hmm. And after the leaders meeting, I just told my pastor, I'm a failure. I failed the bar, and I was just bawling. And she's like, Joanna, you're not a failure.
You're anything but.
Yeah, she's like, you're our lawyer. You got through law school. You're going to take that test again, and you're going to pass it. And I remember we were leaving and went home, and I was still crying. And my mom was like, Joanna, I've never seen you cry this much in your life. You want some ice cream? What to do? Everybody's trying to figure out.
It was a good snack day.
And so as we, continued to engage, she and I, and she really was able to get to the core of it. She said, what is it that's making you so sad in the day? Everybody knows you're embarrassed, but what else? And I said, well, I really feel like I disappointed my job. You know, they hired me to defend people, and I'm not going to be able to do it now till like April, May, whenever the next bar results come out. I said, I feel like I've disappointed this family, and my father, God rest his soul, not so sweet with the words. So I'm like, I can only imagine what he's going to say when he finds out like that I took this exam and spent all this money going to school and borrowed money in debt. Like, what's going to be? And so the more we talked, she said, well, I understand how you feel. And I'm not saying I know it because she's not an attorney, so it wasn't like I've been there.
Yeah.
But she said, I do know you will pass the next time and that you have to make me one promise. And I'm like, all right, what is it? She said, after tonight, you won't cry about this anymore. And I'm like, oh, I'll try. I'll try. I'll try. But ma'am, I am so disappointed and angry and furious. And, you know, wait till I get the numbers and see how close or how far when you spend all that time studying and taking so many exams. But long story short, fast forward, I took it in February of 07 and I passed it in April.
Of course.
But that moment of, you know, my whole schedule changing at work, everybody going to court without me being on a whole different cycle, and just being the only one feeling like so isolated, rejected, disappointed. It has forever been that moment in my life that reminded me that things don't always go the way we plan, but it doesn't mean it will never work out.
That is absolutely true. They don't. We talk about resilience a lot on this show, and if you can't, I want people. If people take anything away from any of the episodes, it's definitely that what you're viewing is a number of people who have found that resilience one way or the other through the pain. They made it through all of that to kind of get to just what you were saying. It's, you know, you kind of have to bounce back, right? If you stay down in that valley too long, it's not a good thing. So I think the best thing not the best thing I hear about your story, but one of the things, you probably already know this, but I'm gonna tell you this anyway. You have phenomenal people in your life that kind of were, you know, there to kind of keep you focused, right? And that's, you know, that's a blessing in and of itself, right? To have your mom be like, because it would have took you weeks to find that link, right? To go back to you would have went back to the page and searched and be like, I don't see myself. It wasn't a mistake. Like,
I'll come take it later.
Yeah.
I'll register later. I'll give you $700 later.
Yeah. It would have. So to have her, you say that, and then to have your pastor say, you know, you're not a failure. So I'll tell you an interesting story that I had with regards to this show. And you know this because one, you're a lawyer, and two, you're the speaker. But language, like, it means a lot. Like the way you put words, the way they rest in your mind, the way you put them out in the universe, that does a lot. So we were talking about promos for the show, and I was saying to my producer, Brian, I'm trying to figure out how to play with these words. And I was like, I actually used the phrase, I'm a failure, but not like in a sad way.
Sure.
And he was like, nope, we're not doing that. And I was like, and he said to me, because putting that in the universe he's like, that's just not a good thing. And you're not a failure, even though you might have felt like that in that moment. And when we were making the show, obviously I didn't feel like a failure. We're like in the middle of processing the show, but he was very clear around that language. And what it could do to your mind. And I think, like you mentioned, like having your pastor there to stop that in that moment also did a lot for you. So how would you coach young people who are not too long from now going to be going in to, you know, taking the bar exam? And I know we're talking specifically about the bar, but these are life lessons, right? So how would you coach a young person?
Absolutely. So I tell them to give it all that they have. You know, you're already drained from your third year of law school, and now you're taking most likely a preparation class, sitting there, going through courses, doing practice exams, and you take it seriously. But I'd encourage them to take it seriously, to do everything possible, do as many essay questions as you can, because when that big day comes, it just goes fast. It goes very fast. And now, you know, we're so older that they don't even do it. You know, I took it at a convention center. Like, they don't even do it that way anymore. They have, you know, a camera watching you on a laptop, and you can do it wherever you like. I don't even understand that. I can hardly understand. But the biggest key is also that if somehow, you know, your first attempt is not successful, don't just say, I'm going to be a JD, or if you want to practice law, do not be discouraged, because I have also, in that sorrow that I had and I wallowed in as much as I could, I've been able to tell so many people, I know what it's like. I've been there, but you can get through it. Yeah. And they're like, "What? You, Joanna?" Yes, yes, even yes. That was like right there and in living color as it happened. So understand that if somehow you do everything possible and it doesn't come back with a positive outcome and you don't get your license the first time, stay on the track.
I love that. And how has, how have you found that particular experience has impacted the rest of your life, like going forward?
Well, it was a time when I could have not only just wallowed, but I also could have been so down on myself that I never had the confidence to, when the day did come, not only to pass it, but to take my legal skills and get in the court like, bam. I could have said, oh, I failed the bar the first time, but here I am. I'm Joanna McClinton, representing the people from the Defender Association. But it's like, no, I didn't walk with my head low. I walked with it high, and I brought the empathy from the moment of disappointment as a fuel. Yeah. It's something about being undermined that has driven me, not just as a young lawyer, but even today in politics. Nobody's expecting a woman to be able to rise through the ranks of leadership when one never has. Yeah. But it's like, okay, let's just undermine us all. Yeah. Let's just see how it works. And the folks who are out of shape at the basketball court, okay, cool. And then they win.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That is very true. Everyone's looking like, oh, I'll take this guy. Like, no, you won't. I love that. I think if I was, I'm going to ask you this question, but I feel like you just gave like the perfect answer. If you wanted folks who are tuning in to take one thing away, what would that one thing be from your story?
The one thing would be, go for it anyway. The obstacles, the disappointments, the setbacks, the failures, they do not define us. They are defining moments in our life, but they don't define all of who we will be. And whatever you have, we need you. We need your voice, we need your influence, we need your power, we need you to use all the gifts that God's given you in this earth, in this time. So don't let that disappointment set you back, hold you back, say, oh, I can't be anything. Yes, you can.
I love that, Joanna. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure having you on The Crucible. You guys heard it here. I second that idea of how much you are necessary in this particular universe. The gifts that we're given to you, we're given to you uniquely. And if you don't use those gifts, then we, the universe, we go on having never experienced, the beauty and your presence here. And so it's really necessary for us to go forward. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Crucible with Jeff Marshall. Until next time, be safe and be well.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of The Crucible with Jeff Marshall. If you would like to be a guest on the program, let's be in touch. And be sure to stay connected with us through your favorite platforms. The Crucible with Jeff Marshall is part of the A Live Podcast Network and can be found in audio-only format wherever you listen to your podcasts. Production of this project was created by Gifted Entertainment, a full-service creative video production company.